Hello everyone, this is Warhawk Beyond 2040 bringing to you a brand new awesome yet crazy theory, and I've decided to put together a brand new theory video involving The Flash because this is something that hasn't really come up much in conversations, although little passing comments have been made, and that's the ending of The Flash because, as we all know, The Flash has been running for close to 7 years now, since 2014, and like with all shows, all good things do indeed come to an end. So I've decided to put together my theory on how The Flash should end, and this is the ending that I've come up with. Since making his first appearance in Arrow Season 2 for 2 episodes, which eventually led to him getting his own spin-off series within the Arrowverse, The Flash has been running for close to 7 years now, since 2014, for 7 seasons, and I've always been asking myself, how do you end the show? How do you come up with an ending for The Flash? So I've decided to come up with an ending on how I think The Flash should end. I personally think the show should end at Season 8, just like Arrow, because I think 8 is a nice number to go out on, especially considering how long the show has been around. And I think for Season 8 of The Flash, you should have a situation where you would see Barry is going about his business, patrolling Central City, and he starts to slowly fade away from existence. Now, the reason for this is because due to Barry Allen constantly changing the timeline over and over again, and the events of Crisis as well, this could lead to dire consequences where, because of Barry constantly changing time over and over, this would cause Barry to accidentally wipe himself out of existence. But this wouldn't just happen in one episode, this could just happen over the course of Season 8, and the only way to restore balance to the timeline is Barry has to sacrifice himself to restore time back to its original setting. But in order for that to happen, there has to be a speedster that takes his place, which I am going to get into in a moment, and I'm going to tell you exactly who I think should be the speedster to replace Barry Allen within the Arrowverse. So what I would have is, over the course of Season 8, Barry Allen is wrestling with the fact that he could very well be wiped out of existence and there's nothing he could do about it. So he wrestles with the idea of how to address this to Team Flash. Now, of course, Barry Allen does eventually tell Team Flash that unless I sacrifice myself and restore the balance to the timeline, I will just simply fade away from existence. And for the ending of The Flash, you've got to have Eobard Thawne, because he has been the one constant in The Flash's life since the very beginning of the show, and it just makes perfect sense to have him there. So I would have Eobard Thawne explain to Barry that because of your constant reworking of time over and over again, you're paying the price for it now. And Barry says, you'll be affected too, and Eobard Thawne says, but I'm not really here, I'm just a paradox. The one who keeps changing the timeline over and over again, that being you, is the one that has to be wiped out from existence. And Barry says to himself, you know what, I would sooner sacrifice myself than not have you around. And Eobard Thawne says, well, if you want the timeline to be restored back to normal, there's only one thing to do. You have to go back to the very beginning of when this all happened. And Barry very emotionally says, you mean the night that my mother was murdered? And Eobard Thawne, very evil smile, says, yes Barry, that's right. So, looks like the fastest man alive does disappear in the Crisis after all. And the best thing about it is, I didn't even have to break a sweat, and this could eventually lead to Barry Allen and Eobard Thawne having their epic battle, because we all know that they had a big battle at the start of the show. So I think for the ending, they should go back to the very beginning of how it all started, because it started with Barry Allen's mum getting murdered, so it's only fitting to go back to that scene one last time. But there's going to be a little twist to it as well. And what you could also have is while Barry and Eobard are going at it, you see all of Barry Allen's memories from all of the seasons all start to fade away from existence as he's running closer and closer to the very beginning of that night where Barry Allen's mother was murdered. And then as they eventually get to the murder scene, instead of Barry Allen's mum getting murdered, we see Barry gets murdered by the Reverse Flash. But, however, there is a twist to it. I would have Barry also take out Eobard Thawne with his vibrating hand, and Thawne could say, "What are you doing? You'll destroy us both." And Barry says, "You know what? I would much rather have neither of us exist than just have you running around hurting the people that I love most." And then in that moment, you would have both speedsters wiped out from existence and the entire timeline is restored to normal. But however, the speedster that I would have take Barry Allen's place is Bart Allen, aka Impulse. Now, obviously in the comic books, we all know that Wally West was the one who took over from Barry Allen, but because this is set more in the future, and of course Impulse is from the future, I just think it would make a lot more sense than to have Wally West be the one who takes over. So I would have Impulse take over, because we've never really seen him in the Arrowverse yet, so I think I would have him take over from Barry Allen. And time is restored to normal, but obviously everybody still remembers Barry Allen, but Barry Allen is wiped out from existence and he can never ever return, but everybody still remembers him and have the memories of Barry Allen. So there is a twist to the timeline that everybody remembers him, but they just can't bring him back because he's just disappeared into the Speed Force after Eobard Thawne and Barry Allen both took themselves out of existence. So there you have it. That's the ending that I've come up with for The Flash Season 8, if they decide to end it at Season 8. How would you end The Flash? Would you end it like this? Go back to the very beginning of the first episode where we saw Barry Allen's mother get murdered? Or would you go a different way to ending the show? You know what to do, guys. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, leave your thoughts and comments down below, and I will see all of you next time. So until then, take care everybody, and stay safe, and once again, thanks for listening.